The band started off originally as Group X, which was basically myself, Mick Slattery, Terry Ollis, John Harrison. I think Hugh Lloyd Langton was in it. I mean, I know he was on the first album, so I suppose he was on the first contract. I think Dick Mick, Dave Brock. I think that was the band then. Well, that was then Hawkwind, and that was. I think that was then John Harrison as well. I'm not quite sure. Or it may.
Yeah, we both did loads of Under the Arches.
But I mean, the band was changing as well because Thomas played Under the Arches and so did Dave here. And in fact, Dave was on In Search of Space, which is the second album, and there were loads of photographs in that album sleeve which were Under the Arches, which were also included Robert Calvert. Yeah, I mean, it was a sort of a community sort of project, really. That's actually what it was. It wasn't like, you know, this is going to be a successful band with a #1 record and big bucks. It wasn't really the concept of everybody that was in it. I mean, that might have been Dave Brock's idea of it. I mean, I don't know really what his idea of it, because I think he has completely different ideas and ideals from me, basically, and that was something that I slowly became aware of, you know, from my experience within the band. The Pink Fairies had arranged with somebody, some people that had a tent there, this canvas city thing, inflatable tent. There was a guy called Jerry Fitzgerald who actually did work with Hawkwind and did sort of designed and painted some of the speaker cabinets in conjunction with Barney Bubbles. He was there, and another guy called, his name was Vic, I think, who's a DJ and did lighting. They actually put that thing together. They invited the Pink Fairies to come down and play there. Twink told me about it and said that would we like to go there, because they were only going to be there for a day because they had some gig somewhere else and they were only going to be able to be there for a limited period of time. So, you know, they involved us in it and we went there and played there all the time. Basically, we sort of we didn't take it over, but we, you know, sort of elaborated it and just sort of invited loads of people to play. Invited Jimi Hendrix to come and play with us, but he didn't. He was too out of it, I think, and loads of other people. There was all these Brazilians that were there. One of them now, his name is Gilberto Gil, who used to be like a hippie. They were all expatriate Brazilians. They were all living around Notting Hill Gate. They were all quite well off, and recently I saw that Gilberto Gil is now the Minister of Culture in Brazil. It's quite amazing, you know. I saw an article about him in the Observer where he's actually involved with organising Rock in Rio, which is like the biggest festival in the world. Yes, we played at the Isle of Wight Festival, and that was Terry, Thomas, Dave Brock, Hugh Lloyd Langton, myself, Dick Mick. I think Robert Calvert might have been there as well. I'm not quite sure. I mean, Robert Calvert was like an old friend of mine from the early days. I grew up with him in Ramsgate, and it was quite a natural thing for him to, let me be in your band, sort of thing. He said to me, you know. I said, yeah, very welcome, you know, because he had great ideas. I didn't consider it my band really, but you know, that's how he saw it. And he was actually a real asset to the band, and he had a lot of very creative ideas. And with Barney Bubbles and Jonathan Smeaton and other people, we put the Space Ritual, the original Space Ritual together, which was as a concept, you know, as a result of the success of the record Silver Machine, which Robert Calvert had written the lyrics for. With the success of that and the money that we got from it, we were able to mount the Space Ritual as a stage show. The band had actually developed an identity to some degree, and it suddenly had a new freedom and some money, and the change came with the money that will then enable the band the creative sort of freedom to do something like that, really, rather than just doing gigs and, you know, around London in the sort of London lavatories and stuff like that. But what one sees in retrospect is that really things changed as a result of really, I think, manipulation by Dave Brock, you know, his personal, looking upon the band as his band, which he controlled, and which anybody that he didn't get on with, or he had sort of felt he had no more use for them, as it were, he would sort of manipulate them out of the band by Machiavellian techniques, really, in my opinion. You know, he would sort of, I mean, I know because I've been sacked from the band twice myself, and I know the machinations of how it worked with regard to, you know, Dave would phone people up and say, oh, you don't want him in the band, do you? You know, this is what you should do. You should say you don't want him in the band. He's, you know, blah, blah, you know, just sort of poisoning people's ears, really, type of thing, you know. And that's, I mean, I only know this from speaking to people, you know, in retrospect later, to find out that's what actually happened. And then it's quite plain to see that that is what the situation was within the band. And I mean, I suppose in certain respects, everybody was sort of too easygoing and a bit too hippified to actually oppose, you know, this agenda that he had, that you didn't really realise he had this agenda. I always thought Hawkwind was a community project which everybody was equally involved in and everybody participated in and everybody put their creative energies into it, because people like Barney did the thing with love, you know, and I think that I felt that everybody that was involved with the band was doing it with love. But it was only later that I realised that some people didn't have any love and they did it for money. Well, when I left the band, I think in 1976, really, I just left out of disgust, really, because I just thought, well, this is a pile of shit and these people are a bunch of wankers and they're not really people that I have any respect for. They obviously haven't any respect for me, and I'm not really interested in being involved with people like this, so I was quite happy to leave. First of all, went to Egypt and recorded flute music inside the Great Pyramid and turned it into an album, and then turned it into a stage show and toured it around the festivals and had a stage built for it, which was then used at Stonehenge for, you know, all the following years as the main stage, and I donated it to the people as a piece of equipment, which, you know, a useful sort of resource, basically, which I, you know, didn't really see that I needed it too much. And then in a city unit, and basically what I've done in every case really is try to be as inclusive as possible with people that I'm involved with. I mean, Dave was playing in Inner City Unit as well for a time, although we sort of had a bit of a falling out, which I'm sort of very regretful about, but you know, these things happen on occasions, but at least we're open about it and we're still friends.
And we are,
you know.
And we always will, all of us.
Yeah. Well, this band, well, I suppose in a way I was fairly instrumental in it, because I just thought what a great idea it would be to get a band together of ex-members of Hawkwind. And it started off because Thomas lived near me. I mean, I live in Wales, Thomas lives in Wales, Dave lives in Wales, and you know, I knew Terry was probably quite interested in doing it. I just sort of, you know,
Come out and play.
he was living in Wales as well. I mean, basically, for myself, I've never actually fallen out with anybody that was ever in Hawkwind, really. You know, I'm still friends with them all, and I still, you know, hopefully will maintain that relationship, because they're all great guys that I like working with, and I respected them creatively, and you know, I'm very happy to work with them. And so we got this band together as an idea to sort of do an occasional project now and again or something like that, and then it sort of developed, really. We became involved with Chris Hewitt, who actually did quite a lot of good work in the past. I mean, the original Space Ritual was a concept of Robert Calvert's, which he put together in conjunction with Barney Bubbles. See, the album In Search of Space, the concept was created by Barney Bubbles and Robert Calvert, basically, which was the idea of this spaceship which crashed on Earth and became two-dimensional and turned into this piece of vinyl, which was like the space. This was the band Hawkwind, basically, and with the album cover, which I folded out into a spaceship, came the Hawkwind log, which was put together by Robert Calvert and Barney Bubbles, and it's full of sort of scientific, metaphysical. It's a mishmash of lots of different ideas and philosophies, and very interesting, I think, and all very valid. You know, they're all sort of well researched, and it's not a total bullshit sort of thing put together. It's sort of tended I mean, Barney was going to do, he conceptualized this sort of the stage show, which was supposed to be the sort of, he designed all the equipment and painted it all, and it was all supposed to be relevant to the sort of, there was this thing of the music of the spheres, which is the Pythagorean concept of the Western scale is actually based upon the distance of the planets from each other in the solar system. That's really Pythagoras had that idea, and that was supposed to be embodied within the concept of the space ritual, how the position of the people in the band astrologically and astronomically set up and laid out so that it was all like an organic thing which was sort of bigger than the sum of its parts, and was going somewhere other than down the dole or Mike's Caff or something, something like that.
Still there. Still there, yeah.
And then so this whole concept of the space ritual came out of that, really, that the space ritual was actually, it was the actual ritual of the planets moving within, relative to each other, and the solar system, the cosmos, universes, the supernovae, black holes, all this great moving thing is the space ritual. It's the sort of whole movement thing, and basically what we are just we're the keepers of the flame, really, to enable that thing to happen. And we sort of, metaphorically and cosmically, we've been gathering and experiencing all these different sort of realities and, I don't know, concepts and, crazy sort of scenes like other planets or other, other realities or other, sort of, I don't know really, do you know what I mean? Other concepts of sort of, and we're sort of we try and bring it all together. And what we do with this, where the space ritual appears, we are just helping to let the thing manifest itself. And the actual space ritual itself, as we are manifesting it, is a product of everybody concerned. It's not just the band. We're just the keepers of it, really, that we guard it, we look after it, and we direct it in a positive way. And when the space ritual manifests itself, like it will here, basically we're trying to draw together all the tribes from all the cosmos and from all the galaxies and from everywhere, and into one place with one object in view of sort of raising the consciousness of everybody there, and raising the consciousness of the planet and trying to heal the planet, really. That's what we're trying to do. It's all about being positive energy, channeling positive energy into a positive force that will benefit everybody. I mean, that's basically the principle.
Heaven on earth.
Yeah. So then there's another sort of spin-off. There's what happens as well. I mean, and this is what happened originally.
The Nick Turner All Stars. I've got a website. Not a lot of people know this.
This is what happened originally, really, was that Hawkwind was this sort of ideal which attracted a lot of very creative people like Barney Bubbles and Robert Calvert and Jonathan Smeaton and Michael Moorcock and John Trucks and I mean numerous other people.
Hello, John.
The people from Friends magazine, in International Times, the sort of whole London underground, really. But we're trying to create the sort of idealistic embodiment of this sort of positive energy, really. That's what it was originally, and I think that's what it still is, really, because I think that there was originally a spirit that Hawkwind had that I think everybody, or perhaps not everybody, but most of the people in the band felt. I know Dick Mick did, and I know Dave and Thomas did, and Terry, and Mick.
And dear Del.
And Del, yeah, of course. And I think really that what we are doing is perpetuating that thing, really, because what's happening now is that all these very creative people are being attracted to us. Like, for instance, there's a guy called Terry Hawk who will be here, and yourself as well. because I mean we're not really a commercial outfit, and I mean possibly there is money, but we're not. That isn't the prime consideration really. It's more like an idealistic thing, and what is happening is that people are being attracted to us and contributing their creative energy, which is great. Retrospectively, it would appear that Dave had sort of considered the band his band, and sort of manipulated everybody out of the band that he didn't want, that was any threat to his writing domination and his domination of the band, really, which is what has happened. And the sort of climax to that was the fact that, unbeknown to the people that were on the original contract, who were jointly and severally known as Hawkwind and signed the contract as Hawkwind, Dave then went and trademarked the name in his own name, so that he was the only one then with the right to use the name, and anybody that wanted to use the name had to have his permission. So what happened was that when we got this band together, we originally called it Ex-Hawkwind, because it was all ex-members of Hawkwind, and I didn't see any harm in that. And then suddenly Dave put an injunction on us performing as Ex-Hawkwind because he owned the name. So basically, you know, what he's done is absolutely contrary to anything that the band was about, which is an ironical sort of, not a joke I wouldn't think really, but just quite ironic really. So yeah.
And we've all been hit in the same way by his actions, and that makes us even stronger because
because we ended up with
what was here that was Hawkwind, and the whole Hawkwind thing has been hijacked by Dave Brock, and we just want to be doing the same sort of thing as we did in the old days, which is what we are doing, without any of that bullshit, and just doing it because we love playing together and we enjoy creating this space ritual. It's really nice.
And we all believe in the spirit. I mean, I think that Dave Brock thing is a bit like that Joni Mitchell song where they say they found paradise and put up a parking lot. Yeah.